Nightbreed is a 1990 fantasy horror written and directed by Clive Barker.
Yes, before I tell you about it, don't forget you can click down here anytime to subscribe to the channel if you like what you're watching. Yeah, it stars Craig Sheffer as Boone, who is a troubled young man who's having recurring dreams of monsters and of killing people and things like that. His girlfriend is quite concerned about him as well, Laurie, played by Anne Bobby. And yeah, he's mentally unstable enough that he's going to see a psychiatrist to deal with these recurring dreams and problems that he's having. And that guy's psychiatrist is played by David Cronenberg. And he tells him about this place that he keeps dreaming about called Midian, where all these monsters that he imagines reside. And as the film progresses, we discover that this is actually a real place, a sort of underground city beneath a graveyard. And they're kind of, I don't know, they're kind of undead or... It's a bit strange.
Yeah.
They're either mutants or shapeshifters, or they're all a bit different in various ways. But they're not evil monsters. They're just trying to get by. They don't really want to be discovered by the naturals, as they call everybody else. Dr. Decker, David Cronenberg's character, is quite interested in finding out about these creatures for some reason.
Too interested.
It's a bit too interested for some reason. So yeah, while he's telling his psychiatrist about the murders that he's dreaming about, there is a real serial killer killing families. And even he doesn't know whether he's committed these murders himself. And we won't say any more because that'll spoil it if you haven't seen it.
No.
So,
You may have seen it because it's quite well known, this film.
Yeah.
It's been around for 1990s. It's been around for a while, and it's got a bit of a cult. It's got quite a cult.
It has got quite a big, rabid fan base, shall we say?
It has.
They do love it.
Do I love it?
I don't know. Do you?
I have a love-hate relationship with this film. It's
Yeah.
a funny one because I love the work of Clive Barker. I love his books. I love Hellraiser. It's one of my favourite horror films. That and the sequel. I quite like the third one.
Yeah, third one's alright.
It starts to go a bit. The third one's got some great stuff in it, but the first two, particularly the first two, and the first one is just they're great films. So obviously, when this one came out, new Clive Barker film.
Yeah. The first two Hellraisers and this were made very quick succession.
They were very quick. So obviously, when I didn't see this when it first came out because I was a bit young, but it would have been quite soon after that I probably discovered Clive Barker, and I just didn't. I don't know. There's lots in here to like.
Yeah.
There's lots of great stuff in here that works. But I think for me, I know why I don't like it, and that's mainly the cast. I didn't think Craig Sheffer was nearly looked as his wooden acting. Was he a model? Maybe
I don't know. He's an actor.
He's a bit of a. I don't know. He just to me he wasn't. I never felt like he was mad enough or insane enough. And then when he's like, he's got like crazy visions and stuff, but he looks so nice. I mean, I'm not obviously saying, I'm sure many violent killers out there look nice as well. But do you know what I mean? Because his acting's not that great, he never really felt like, and he's got this nice girlfriend, nice flat, looks like he's an artist or a musician, early 90s, that kind of loft conversion type flat, and he's having these really crazy dreams. I was like, I wasn't sold on that. And big fan of David Cronenberg. His acting is terrible.
He's not the best.
He's not, and it's that kind of, it's that kind of, just if the acting's that bad, it just kind of falls asleep after a while. I mean, he's one of those actors that he's great when he's in a cameo, when he doesn't have to do much. But when he's got like a whole role to do, you kind of wish he'd given it to someone better. The creature effects, although some of the creature effects are amazing, a lot of them to me felt a little bit like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They weren't
harsh,
but they weren't too. So there's one scene in the film. It's when when the girlfriend goes in to Midian and she meets the woman, with the crazy dog thing.
Yeah.
And she meets the woman, and the woman touches her, and she says, took that line about show me the past, and then you get this crazy flashback.
Yeah.
Now that is great because it's really dark. And it's quite a little bit Hellraiser things. There's strange monster-looking things and fire and, really dark stuff. If it was the whole film like that, if that was Midian, I would have totally been on board. And obviously with a better actor. But for me, a lot of the monster effects were too... They're not dark enough. I mean, what they are in the Cenobites in Hellraiser. That's dark. I mean,
yeah, but what
obviously
you've got to remember is that it's not Hellraiser, and the monsters aren't supposed to be evil, horrifying, demons.
No, I know that. I understand that. Obviously, I mean, the interesting thing with Hellraiser was it was kind of a reflection of that whole S&M society. So it was going for a much dark, and it's obviously about hell. And that's maybe why I didn't like this, and I like Hellraiser because I find if you're talking about horror, it's got to be really, really dark and really, really crazy.
Well, again, I think this is less horror, more fantasy, isn't it?
Yeah, and like I think when we did, what was that fantasy film we did?
Krull.
I'm not the biggest fantasy fan at all, really. So maybe that's why.
I mean, I think one of the issues is obviously it was written and directed by Cliver Barker, based on his
Cabal, isn't it?
Yeah, Cabal, his short novel, and I think the original screenplay was very close to the book.
Sure,
but unfortunately, the studio, when it had a bit of production issues where the studio didn't really like the final product they were getting, so they changed it a bit, and I think a lot of some of the stuff that would explain some of its shortcomings, like Boone's character, he doesn't have a lot of character development. It's kind of straight in. Oh, he's a bit troubled. He has nightmares. Blah blah blah. But you don't really learn very much about him. And the same with his girlfriend as well. And there's not a lot of development for them, so it's difficult to get too invested in them because it's so quick.
I think also you have the problem here in that although Clive Barker is he's clearly got a lot of visual stuff going inside his head. I mean, he's probably had a lot of those dreams himself growing up. But he's obviously he's a writer. He's not a filmmaker. I mean, I think Hellraiser is a perfectly fine film. It's not it's not the most amazing film because he's not he doesn't maybe understand acting. He doesn't understand those kind of things. So he can make a great horror film, but he may be you know what I mean. He's not like he's not a filmmaker.
I kind of get what you mean. Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I think, although that doesn't necessarily show so much in Hellraiser, it shows in this one. And that, for me, I think dragged it down because he didn't get a decent enough cast, in my opinion. Yeah, that's why. I mean, yes, obviously, so I watched recently, I think the first one I watched would have been the theatrical cut. The one I watched the other day for this was the theatrical cut. Apparently, I have seen the director's cut.
You don't remember much.
I don't remember much about it.
I mean, the director's cut kind of adds 45 minutes of extra footage, takes away about 25 minutes of footage of previous footage, so it's like completely recut effectively. So
still the same actors though.
Well, yes, it is, but there's a bit more meat at the start of the film with those two, with Boone and Laurie. So you learn a bit more about them before we get straight into the action. So it gives it a bit more room to breathe. Whereas I think the theatrical cut, it's great to have a fast-paced film. I think when you've got such a something based around some sort of mythology, you need to give that time to sort of
definitely
to be told. Otherwise, there's not a lot. You have to learn everything about what's going on so quickly, and you don't really get to know enough about it. And I think that and again, Boone and Laurie, you don't learn enough about them at the start of the film in the theatrical version, anyway.
I think it's one of those films where there's definitely really interesting ideas in there, and I suppose just for me, it didn't gel together well enough. I mean, I absolutely love. Who doesn't love the scene in the hospital with the guy and the? I mean, that's revolting, and it's just. I mean, that's kind of more of that would have been great, but I don't know. So for me, it was a really interesting concept going. There was really interesting ideas in there.
Just doesn't quite gel.
It just didn't gel, and probably the acting or lack of acting didn't really work for me. Don't hate it at all.
No.
It's definitely got some interesting stuff in there.
Just don't love it.
Just don't love it.
So, I mean, the reason we're doing it is because it's just popped up on Amazon Prime to stream. The theatrical version,
This is true. Yeah.
It's not something that's shown on TV much. I don't think it's ever been released on DVD in the UK anyway. Yeah, if you want to stream it, that's where you go. I mean, I don't know if it's on Netflix or anything. Go to your preferred streaming provider and see if they've got it. They've definitely got it on Amazon. Whether they've got it anywhere else, we'll leave that to you to find out. If you want it on Blu-ray, there was a nice release from Scream Factory. I can't remember when it was, 2 or 3 years ago, which I have here. And this one has got both cuts in it. the theatrical and the directors. Quite difficult to get hold of now. You can get it on eBay, but you know what eBay's like with things that are sold out, silly prices. So, but you can get the director's cut on its own from Screen Factory as well. So, if you can stream the theatrical and then go and buy the director's if you want to see that. The only problem is it is obviously a US release, so it's Region A. So if you can't watch that, then you're stuffed. So basically, because there's no sign of a Blu-ray in the UK yet. But if you can get this one, then go for it because it is a nice set. There's lots of features. There's an interesting one with Mark Goldblatt, who was the editor. Well, he wasn't the original editor. He was brought in to help with the editing by the studio because they weren't happy with it. So, and obviously he's edited Terminator. He worked with James Cameron a few times and Joe Dante as well. So quite an experienced editor. And the theatrical cut is well paced and everything. It just, I think the overall story, it because it's cut so much out, it loses something. I mean, anyone who's a fan of the film knows for years fans have been crying out for some sort of director's cut. And a few years ago, I think it was at festivals, and there was the Cabal cut, which basically cut in some VHS footage that was found. Obviously, awful quality. You know, the tapes are degraded somewhat, but they still cut it back in. And obviously, there was loads of scenes that had been lost for years. And last year, that was released on Blu-ray as well. But I think it was only in the US, and it was only available on the distributor's website. So incredibly difficult to get hold of. And again, it's on eBay, but only if you want to pay silly money for it. So, and what I think again, they didn't find that new footage. I think it's still VHS quality. So it's not parts of it won't look too good. But if you are obsessed with it, you've probably already got that anyway. So
this is true.
What's the point? But if you're new to the film, then just go and stream it. And if you like the theatrical cut, then I would say check out the directors because it adds a bit more meat to the story and the mythology of Midian and that. Because obviously the book, it would probably be interesting to watch the theatrical cut and then maybe read the book because that would add a bit more background. I haven't read the book.
No, I've never read this one either.
So, but I think the original script obviously kept very close to that because Clive Barker wrote it, so he wanted to keep in as much of his story as humanly possible.
So that was Nightbreed, and we hope you enjoyed this video. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of the film. Have you seen the film? Which one of those discs have you got? Have you only seen the theatrical cut like me? Although I think I've seen the director's cut. We'd love to know. Like I said, there's probably a few of you out there that are big fans of the film. Let us know what you think about it.
Yes, check us out on Twitter and Facebook. We've got lots and lots of other videos, so take a little peek at those as well.
Do that.
And we'll see you again soon for another one.